It is a day designed to be lost to memory. We see Ali on his lunch break, not in the office canteen, but in a generic, brightly lit coffee shop a few blocks away. This is his small act of rebellion, escaping his desk to procrastinate in a different chair. He's scrolling aimlessly through his phone, his thumb moving in a slow, hypnotic rhythm, his coffee growing cold beside him. He is a perfect portrait of quiet desperation. The prisons we build for ourselves are designed for comfort and predictability. The routines, the excuses, the quiet surrenders, they form a rhythm, a lullaby of inaction that keeps us pacified. But life, in its infinite and sometimes cruel wisdom, does not allow us to sleep forever. Every now and then, it sends a jolt. It sends a mirror. For Ali, on this perfectly forgettable Tuesday, the mirror walked in, ordered a cappuccino, and called his name. A voice clear and energetic cuts through the cafe's low hum. Ali, Ali Khan, is that really you? The voice was from another lifetime, a time of possibility, of late-night debates about the meaning of life, of a future that felt like an open road. Ali looked up from his phone, and his mind took a moment to connect the confident, smiling man in front of him with the lanky, perpetually worried college friend he once knew. It was Saad. Saad is the opposite of Ali. Not in an arrogant way, but in his very essence. His posture is open, he moves with a sense of purpose. His eyes are bright and engaged. He radiates a quiet energy, the kind that comes from a person who is aligned with their purpose. He pulls up a chair, his smile genuine and warm. Saad, man, I thought that was you. It's been, what, 5 years? You look exactly the same. Saad meant it as a compliment, but to Ali, the words exactly the same landed like a judgment. He forced a smile, the muscles in his face feeling stiff and unused. Ali, Saad. Wow, yeah, it's been a while. You look great. What are you up to these days? This was the polite, meaningless question that would unravel Ali's carefully constructed piece. Saad leaned forward, and as he spoke, Ali felt as if the entire coffee shop, with its cheerful music and smell of roasted beans, began to fade into the background. Saad, it's been a wild ride, man. I left the accounting firm about 3 years ago. Ali, really? But that was such a safe job. Saad, exactly. It was too safe. It was a slow death. I started a small graphic design agency out of my spare bedroom. My parents thought I was insane. Saad spoke of the terror of quitting his stable job. He spoke of the first year, living on credit cards and instant noodles, working 18-hour days, fueled by nothing but coffee and a terrifying, thrilling belief in himself. He spoke of the crushing failures, losing his first big client, having his website crash before a major launch, but there was no trace of regret in his voice. Every obstacle was just a part of the story. Saad. But here's the crazy thing, Ali. Even on the worst days, the days I was sure I was going to lose everything, it felt more real than any day I ever spent in that cubicle, because it was mine. The failures were mine, and the small victories, man, they felt like winning a war. Real. That word echoed in the empty chambers of Ali's heart. He was looking at a man who was living a real life. And for the first time, Ali had to confront the fact that his own life felt like a cheap imitation, a rehearsal for a play that would never be performed. The polite smile on his face was now a mask, and behind it, he was crumbling. Then Saad, with the innocent cruelty of a well-meaning friend, turned the mirror directly onto Ali's soul. Saad, but enough about me. What about you, the literary genius? I still have that short story you wrote in Professor Ahmed's class, The Clockmaker's Son. It was brilliant. I was so sure I'd be seeing your novel in bookstores by now, so tell me everything. What are you working on? The cheerful buzz of the coffee shop rushes back in, but now it sounds harsh, mocking. Ali feels the heat rise in his cheeks. The air feels thin. He is naked, exposed. The lie comes out before he can stop it, a weak and flimsy shield. Ali, oh, I'm working on a few things, a big project. It's a slow process, just trying to find the time. The lie tasted like ash in his mouth. He wasn't working on a project. His project was avoiding the work. He didn't need to find time. He was murdering it every single day. He looked at Saad, this man who had wrestled with fear and uncertainty to build a life of purpose, and he felt a profound, gut-wrenching sense of loss. He wasn't just looking at a successful friend. He was looking at a ghost, the ghost of the man he could have been, if only he'd been brave. In that moment, he realized the most painful truth of all. Saad wasn't lucky. Saad was brave. And that distinction was the cruelest cut of all. They exchanged numbers and promised to catch up. A promise both know is empty. Saad leaves with a final, cheerful wave. Ali is left alone. He slowly looks down at his phone, its screen now dark. And in the reflection, he sees a stranger with hollow eyes and a forced smile that has collapsed into an expression of pure, undiluted pain. The war within. The long walk home. The coffee shop door closes behind Ali with a gentle chime that sounds to him like a funeral bell. He steps out onto the pavement, and the world he re-enters is not the same one he left an hour ago. The familiar city street has become a hostile, alien landscape. The sun, peeking from behind a cloud, feels accusatory. The roar of traffic is no longer a background hum, but the sound of a world rushing forward, leaving him behind. There are moments that fracture a life, not with a loud explosion, but with a silent, hairline crack that spreads through the very foundation of who you are. The meeting with Saad was such a moment. As Ali began the walk home, he was not merely walking from one location to another. He was adrift in the wreckage of his own life, and a storm was gathering within him. It began with the familiar, insidious whisper of his old self, the voice of the victim. Its goal was simple: to take this raw, agonizing pain and numb it with the sweet poison of excuses. Ali walks slowly, his shoulders slumped. He looks at the ground, avoiding the eyes of the people he passes. The victim's voice, internal wheedling. Don't feel so bad. It's not your fault. Saad was just lucky. He probably had family money to fall back on. His path was easier. You have real responsibilities, real pressures. He doesn't understand. For years, this voice had been his master. Its logic was his gospel. It had always worked. It had always soothed him, justified his inaction, and allowed him to retreat back into the comfortable prison of tomorrow. But today was different. The pain from the mirror was too sharp, too real, and it had awakened something else. A voice he hadn't heard in a decade. A voice of fire and fury. The voice of the warrior he had long ago buried alive. Ali's pace quickens slightly. He is no longer just walking, he is marching. His jaw is clenched. The warrior's voice, internal, a roar. Lucky? Did you hear him? He lived on instant noodles while you were ordering takeout. He faced his fears while you were changing the channel. He built a life while you built a fortress of excuses. That isn't luck. That is the bill for success. And he paid it in full while you were waiting for a handout. The victim's voice, panicked, losing its grip. But it's too late now. The opportunity is gone. I'm too old. I've missed my chance. It's better to just accept it. The warrior's voice, relentless, brutal. Too late? Look down at your hands. Feel the air in your lungs. Your heart is still beating a warrior's drum inside your chest. Too late is for the dead, and you are not dead. You have just been sleeping, and the only thing you have missed is more time to make excuses. This was the war for Ali's soul, fought on the battlefield of a 2-mile walk. Every confident stride of a businessman passing by, every laughing couple on a bench, every ambitious piece of architecture scraping the sky, it all became evidence in the trial against his old self. The victim was a master of defense, but the warrior was armed with the one weapon it could not refute, the brutal, undeniable truth. The pain was still there, a white-hot core in his chest, but now it was transmuting into something else, something useful, something powerful. It was anger, a clean, purifying rage. He was not angry at Sard. He was not angry at the world. For the first time, he was truly, incandescently angry at himself. At the weakness he had mistaken for patience. At the comfort he had mistaken for peace. He was angry at the thousands of tiny surrenders, the thousands of tomorrows that had amounted to a wasted life. Ali arrives at his apartment building. He stops on the pavement and looks up at his own window. The window that was once his sanctuary, his safe place to hide, now looks like the barred window of a prison cell. His face is no longer one of pain or sadness. It is a mask of cold, hard resolve. By the time he reached his front door, the war was over, the victim was silent, defeated, the warrior was in command. He slid the key into the lock, the metallic click echoing the final decisive shift within him. He was not the same man who had left for coffee that afternoon. That man was a passenger, a ghost. This man was a revolutionary. He pushed the door open, not to a home, but to an arena. And tonight, the man he used to be was going to have to fight for his life. Rock bottom, the solid ground. For a new beginning, the apartment door clicks shut behind Ali. The sound is unnaturally loud in the silence. A final, definitive sound. It's the sound of a vault being sealed. He is now locked inside with the ghosts of his past and the warrior of his future. The air is heavy, electric, with unspoken conflict. He doesn't turn on the lights, allowing the fading grey light of dusk to paint the room in shadows. He stood in the doorway of his own life and saw it for the first time. This place he had called home was not a sanctuary. It was a stage, meticulously designed for the tragicomedy of his inaction. The worn-out armchair in the corner was not a piece of furniture. It was the throne of his apathy, where he had reigned as the king of his own small, sad kingdom of excuses. The television, a black, glossy mirror, was the altar where he had sacrificed thousands of hours of his precious, unrepeatable life. And there, on the coffee table, lay the most damning piece of evidence of all. The notebook, thick with empty pages. It was not a symbol of his dream. It was the tombstone he had carved for it. Ali moves through the room, not like a resident, but like a detective at a crime scene. His own. He runs a finger over the dusty cover of the notebook. He picks it up. He feels its weight, the physical weight of the paper and the unbearable, crushing weight of a decade of broken promises to himself. The rage that had been a roaring fire on his walk home, the righteous anger that had been his shield and his sword, now flickered, because as he held the symbol of his profound failure in his hands, the warrior's anger gave way to the boy's grief. The fury could not hold back the flood of sorrow that lay beneath it, and he broke. Ali collapses, not gracefully, but in a heap. He sinks to the floor, the notebook falling beside him. The breakdown is not loud or dramatic. It is a silent, convulsive weeping. The kind of crying that comes from the soul, a deep primal release of pain held for too long. He is mourning. Mourning the years the locusts had eaten. Mourning the man he was supposed to be. The hero of his own story who had never shown up. He was drowning in the truth of his own life. The truth that no one had done this to him. There was no villain, no bad luck, no cosmic injustice. There was only him, his choices, his surrenders, his comfort. He was the architect of his own prison and the warden of his own soul. He had to feel it all. The shame, the regret, the monumental suffocating weight of his own wasted potential. This is rock bottom. It is the place we spend our whole lives trying to avoid. But it is a sacred place, because it is the only place where the lies finally die. It is the only place where there is nothing left to hold on to. And when you have nothing left to hold on to, you are finally, terrifyingly, gloriously free. The weeping subsides. Ali is left empty, curled on the floor in the deepening twilight. The storm has passed. What remains is a profound, echoing silence. He lies there for a long time, breathing, just breathing. This is the moment of absolute zero. And in that silence, after the death of his old self, something new began to stir. He slowly pushed himself up. He sat on the floor, his back against the couch, and looked at his own hands in the dim light as if he'd never seen them before. They were not the hands of a victim. They were the hands of a builder, an artist, a creator. They had been idle, yes, but they were still strong. They were still capable. He finally understood. He had spent his life wishing to be a writer. He had hoped someone would discover him. He had held a preference for a different life. But a wish is a child's plea to a star. A hope is a beggar's prayer. A preference is a suggestion that is easily ignored. They have no power. Power is found only in a decision, a true decision, the kind from which there is no retreat. Ali gets to his feet. Every movement is slow, deliberate, heavy with purpose. The grief is gone, the anger is gone, the desperation is gone. All that remains is a calm, cold, unshakable certainty. He walks to his desk, ignoring the television, ignoring the armchair. He sits down in the simple wooden chair. He reaches over and clicks on a small desk lamp, creating a single, focused pool of light in the darkness. He pulls the notebook towards him and opens it to the first, clean, white page. He picked up a pen. And then he made a vow, not to the heavens, not to the world, but to himself. He spoke the words out loud, his voice quiet but unbreakable in the still room, making them a physical contract with his own soul. Ali, no more. Starting tomorrow, I will be at this desk at 5 a.m. I will write for 1 hour. I don't care if I'm tired. I don't care if I'm uninspired. I don't care if the words are garbage. I will show up. It is done. A profound peace washed over him. The war was over. The noisy chaos of his internal world had ceased. There was only the quiet hum of the lamp, the smooth feel of the pen in his hand, and the infinite possibility of the blank page. The page was empty, just as it had been yesterday. But tonight, so was the rest of his life, cleared of the debris of his past. And for the first time, that felt like freedom. Burning the boats, the true meaning of a decision. The camera holds on the still image of Ali at his desk. The single lamp carves him out of the darkness. He is not writing yet. He is perfectly still, the pen resting in his hand just above the blank page. The intense emotional storm of the previous scene has passed. leaving a deep, powerful calm. The narrator's voice is measured, wise, and philosophical. There is an old story, told in many forms throughout history. A great commander lands his army on enemy shores, ready for a battle that will determine the fate of their nation. His soldiers are outnumbered, terrified, and 1,000 miles from home. As they watch their commander, he gives a single, chilling order: burn the boats. The soldiers watch in horror, and then in dawning understanding, as their only means of escape, their only safety net, is consumed by fire. In that moment, the commander gives them a terrible and beautiful gift. He eliminates the option of retreat. He makes the path forward the only path available. From that point on, every soldier knows that the battle is not about courage or glory or honor. It is about survival. The only way home is through the enemy. That is the anatomy of a true decision. It is not a gentle suggestion to oneself. It is not a hopeful wish. A true decision is an act of self-warfare. It is the conscious, deliberate act of burning the boats that lead back to the safety of your old self. As the narrator speaks, we see symbolic, ghostly images overlaying the scene of Ali at his desk. A beautiful, inviting boat labeled "Tomorrow" catches fire and turns to ash. And in the quiet of his room, Ali had just set his entire fleet ablaze. The first and grandest ship he burned was the magnificent vessel called Tomorrow. For years, he had loaded all his dreams, his ambitions, and his promises onto this ship, confident that one day he would sail it to the paradise of his ideal life. His vow, starting tomorrow at 5 a.m., was not a plan to sail that ship. It was a torpedo aimed at its hull. By defining the exact time and place of his battle, he destroyed the vague, comforting illusion of a future moment. There was no more one day. There was only 5 a.m. Another, smaller, more comfortable-looking boat, labeled "I'll Try," is consumed by flames. The next boat to burn was the cozy fishing skiff named "I'll Try." It was a small boat, but perhaps the most treacherous. The words "I'll try" are a masterpiece of self-deception. They grant you permission to fail before you have even begun. They are a pre-written apology for a lack of commitment. Ali did not say, "I'll try to write." He said, "I will write." He spoke in the language of command, not the language of negotiation. He burned the boat that offered a comfortable return to the harbor of good intentions. A sleek, beautiful sailboat named Inspiration ignites, its white sails turning to black smoke. He then set fire to the most beautiful and seductive boat in his fleet, the elegant vessel named Inspiration. Like so many, Ali believed that great work could only be done when the mystical muse decided to visit. He was waiting for the perfect wind to fill his sails. But his decision, "I don't care if I'm uninspired. I don't care if the words are garbage," was a declaration of independence from the tyranny of his own moods. He was no longer an amateur who waited for the feeling to be right. He had decided to become a professional who shows up regardless of the feeling, and through the act of showing up, creates the inspiration he needs. The camera returns to a tight shot of Ali's face. He looks calm, focused. The ghosts of the burning boats have faded. This is why he felt peace. The terrible anxiety of choice was gone. The mental energy he had wasted for years, negotiating with himself, battling his conscience, juggling his excuses, was now free. When there is only one path forward, all of your power is focused in one direction. There is no more doubt, only duty, no more hesitation, only action. He was no longer a man with a dream. A dream is a whisper. He was now a man with a plan. A plan is a command. The passenger, with all of his hopes and his fears, had died in the fire of his own ships. The captain was now at the helm. Ali takes one slow, deep breath. The past is ash. The future is a blank page. He lowers the pen, and its nib makes contact with the paper, poised to make the first mark. The sacred hour, building a new reality day by day. The script fades in on a jarring, loud sound, the piercing beep of an alarm clock. The time on the display reads 4:59 a.m. The room is pitch black and cold. We see Ali's hand emerge from under a warm duvet and slam down on the snooze button. The silence returns. A beat of suspense. The old Ali would have rolled over. The camera holds, waiting, energetic, brave, and brilliant. The Ali that lived on the island of tomorrow was a celebrated author, a master of prose, a man whose words could move the world. The problem, of course, is that the island of tomorrow is a mirage. It is a destination you can see but never reach. The more you sail toward it today, the further it recedes. Its only real function is to make the stark, imperfect reality of today feel unbearable and to offer a dangerously comforting excuse to do nothing about it. The script now dives into the granular detail of Ali's daily cycle of procrastination. We see a montage of his day, but it's a loop of the same failures, narrated with psychological insight. And Ali was a master sailor in the sea of procrastination, with his sights set firmly on tomorrow. Ali's alarm clock rings at 6 a.m. His hand snakes out from under the covers and slams the snooze button without him even opening his eyes. His day began not with a decision, but with a negotiation. The thought would enter his mind, a whisper from his dormant ambition. Wake up, right now, before the day defeats you. But the siren song of comfort was always louder. Just 10 more minutes, his body would plead. His mind, the clever lawyer, would immediately agree. Yes, rest is important for creativity. I'll feel more alert after my coffee. I'll write tonight instead. Tomorrow, I'll set the alarm for 5:30. The negotiation was a sham. The verdict was always the same, a surrender to comfort. Ali is at his grey, soul-crushing office job. He's staring at a spreadsheet, his eyes glazed over. He discreetly opens a browser tab to a blog about how to become a writer. At work, he would engage in the most popular form of procrastination, the illusion of research. He would read articles about the habits of successful authors. He would look up the best kind of keyboard for writing. He would research literary agents he might one day need. He was doing everything related to writing, except the one thing that mattered, the actual, painful, glorious act of writing itself. Each article he read felt like a small accomplishment, a tiny dose of productivity that soothed his conscience and gave him permission to fail for one more day. This is important groundwork, he'd tell himself. When I finally start, I'll be fully prepared. I'll start writing for real. Tomorrow. The sun has set. Ali walks through his apartment door, physically and emotionally drained. He throws his keys in a bowl. His eyes land on the notebook on the coffee table. It seems to stare back at him, an object of both desire and dread. But the final decisive battle was always fought in the evening. This was the moment of truth. The exhaustion from his meaningless job was a real and heavy burden, and his mind would use it as its ultimate weapon. The ritual of delay would begin. First, the coffee. I need to wake myself up a bit. Then, the phone. I'll just check my messages quickly, clear my head, then the television. Just for some background noise. I can't write in total silence. He'd sit on the couch, notebook on the cushion beside him, and make the final, fatal bargain. Okay, one episode of this show to unwind, and then I swear I will open the book. But he knew, and the universe knew, it was a lie. The show was a sedative for his ambition. One episode would bleed into two, and the comforting numbness of distraction would wash over him. The clock on the wall now reads 11:30 p.m. Ali looks at it, then at the still-closed notebook. A wave of self-disgust flashes across his face. And then, the moment of surrender. The guilt would hit him like a physical blow. The self-loathing. The feeling of being a fraud in his own life. But the prison of tomorrow is a clever construction. Just as the pain becomes unbearable, the warden appears with a soothing balm. A gentle voice would whisper in his mind, its tone full of false sympathy. Don't be so hard on yourself. You had a long, difficult day. Nobody can create under this kind of pressure. You need to rest. Tomorrow is a fresh start. You'll be rested. You'll be ready. Tomorrow will be the day. And just like that, the crushing guilt would recede, replaced by a wave of unearned relief. The addiction wasn't to television or to comfort. The addiction was to that feeling of relief. The relief of letting yourself off the hook one more time. He had become so comfortable in this prison, he had started to mistake the bars for a protective embrace. But a prison, no matter how comfortable, is still a cage, and its only purpose is to keep you from your true destiny. What Ali didn't realize was that an unexpected visitor was coming to his prison. A visitor that would hold up a mirror and force him to see the bars for what they truly were. The painful mirror, a friend's success. The visual is one of extreme mundanity. It's a Tuesday. The sky is a forgettable shade of grey. The air is neither warm nor cold. The power of a true decision. The script opens not on a person, but on a concept. The visuals are symbolic and dreamlike. We see an immense, grand old train station, almost like a cathedral. The air is thick with dust motes dancing in shafts of sunlight. The station is filled with people, but the sounds are muted, distant. A giant old-fashioned timetable clicks and turns, but the destinations are not cities. They are concepts: success, adventure, love, fulfillment. Whistles of departing trains echo faintly. Have you ever felt like you're living your entire life in a train station? Not as a traveler, bustling with purpose towards a specific platform, but as a permanent resident, a passenger on standby. This is the grand station of potential. Every day, countless trains arrive and depart. The express to a new career, the scenic route to a passionate relationship, the local service to a new skill. They all come, their doors slide open, inviting you in. They wait for a moment, and then, with a sigh of steam and a mournful whistle, they depart, becoming just another ghost of a missed opportunity. Most of us who live in this station are waiting. We tell ourselves we're waiting for the perfect train, the one with plush seats, a guaranteed smooth journey, and our name written in gold on the front. We sit on the hard, worn benches of our comfort zone, clutching a ticket to a magnificent destination, but we convince ourselves that none of these departing trains are our train. That one's too fast, we whisper. I'm not prepared. That one looks too crowded, we reason. I'll get lost in the shuffle. That one seems too slow. I'll get bored. And so we wait. We become connoisseurs of waiting. We watch others board their trains, some with fear, some with excitement, and we judge their choices from the safety of our bench. We become observers of life, not participants. And the bitterest irony is that the station bench, once a place of rest, slowly transforms into a cage. The camera slowly zooms in from the vast, metaphorical station and seamlessly transitions into a small, cramped apartment. The feeling is the same: stillness, waiting. We find our main character, Ali, in his late 20s. He is sitting in a worn-out armchair, staring out the window. His view is not of a grand landscape, but of the brick wall of the building next door. This was the station where Ali lived. His apartment was his bench. The window was his timetable. He was a professional passenger. His life wasn't a tragedy in the dramatic sense. There was no grand catastrophe. There was only a quiet, slow, grinding erosion of the human spirit, a symphony of inaction. He was not unhappy, but he was profoundly unalive. He existed in the space between his breaths, between the tick and the tock of the clock on his wall. He was a spectator to his own potential. He would scroll through photos of friends climbing mountains, starting businesses, getting married, and a part of him would feel a dull, familiar ache. He would watch movies about brave heroes and daring artists and feel a flicker of inspiration. He would see his own reflection in the dark screen of his phone and see a stranger with tired eyes, a man held captive by the architecture of his own apathy. But Ali did have a ticket. Oh yes, it was a first-class ticket. It was clutched so tightly in the fist of his soul that the edges were worn and faded. The destination printed on it, in beautiful, flowing script, read, "A life as a writer." The camera focuses on a dusty notebook on his coffee table. It's thick, full of potential, but unopened. He had the destination. He had the talent. He had the burning, secret desire that he never spoke of. So why, with a ticket to a world of his own creation in his pocket, did he remain glued to the bench of his life, watching train after train disappear down the tracks? The answer was a simple, seductive, and soul-crushing promise, a poison disguised as a comfort. It was the name of the invisible prison that kept him, and so many of us, waiting forever in the station. The prison of tomorrow. The camera holds on the dusty, unopened notebook on Ali's coffee table. The faint, hopeful light from the window seems to avoid it. The narrator's voice, which was contemplative, now takes on a slightly more somber, knowing tone. That invisible prison, that soul-crushing promise that kept Ali glued to the station bench, has a name. We all know it. We speak its name with a mix of reverence and desperation. We worship it as a savior, while it quietly strangles our dreams. That name is tomorrow. Tomorrow is not a day of the week. It is a mythical island on the horizon of our lives. A paradise where the air is always sweet with motivation, the ground is always soft with perfect circumstances, and the rivers flow with endless inspiration. On the island of tomorrow, we are the people we were always meant to be. The version of us that lives there is disciplined.
And so it began, not with a bolt of lightning or a chorus of angels, but with the brutal, unwelcome sound of an alarm clock in the cold dark. This is where the poetry of decision-making ends, and the hard, unglamorous prose of discipline begins. We see Ali throw the covers off. He doesn't want to. His body is a dead weight of resistance. Every muscle screams for the comfort of the bed. The victim's voice, now just a pathetic whimper, makes its final stand. Just for today. It's too soon. Start tomorrow for real. Ali ignores it. He swings his legs onto the floor, his movements stiff and robotic. He is acting on commitment, not feeling. The first morning was hell. The second was not much better. He would sit at his desk, his mind a thick fog of sleep, and stare at the blank page. The magnificent, flowing prose he had imagined in his daydreams refused to come. Instead, His first words were ugly, clumsy, and shy. In the first hour of his new life, he wrote a single, terrible paragraph. He looked at it with disgust, but then he remembered the vow. The vow was not to write a masterpiece. The vow was simply to show up. He had shown up. He had kept the promise. He closed the notebook, and, for the first time in years, he started his day not with the guilt of inaction, but with the quiet, sturdy pride of a promise kept. A montage sequence begins. The pacing is slow at first, then gradually quickens. It is a symphony of consistency. First, we see the struggle. Days of him writing poorly, crumpling up pages, staring into space, his head in his hands. We see him yawning uncontrollably at his day job. Pouring antrid I abdrizafa korikafai. We see a text from a friend on his phone. Drinks tonight? And we see him type back, sorry, can't. We see the sacrifice. Then we see the breakthrough. One morning, a small, genuine smile spreads across his face as he rereads a sentence he has just written. It's good. It's his. The camera pushes in on that single sentence. It is the first fruit of his labor. Then we see the rhythm. The writing becomes more fluid. His fingers move faster. One morning, he is so absorbed in his work that he is startled by his 6 a.m. alarm, signaling the end of his sacred hour. He has entered the state of flow. The work is no longer just a duty. It is becoming a joy. He was discovering the great secret of all creators. The muse does not visit the idol. She is a working goddess. She rewards the laborer, not the dreamer. Inspiration is not a cause of action. It is a consequence of it. With each sunrise, he was not just writing a book. He was rewriting his own identity. The pain of the discipline was temporary, but the pride of keeping a promise to himself was permanent. He was no longer a person who wanted to write. He was a writer. The montage continues, showing the passage of time. The pages of his notebook fill with ink. One notebook is completed and stacked, and a new one is started. The seasons change outside his window from the gray of winter to the green of spring. He posts a short story online. We see the notifications, 3 likes, then 10, then a comment from a stranger. This was beautiful. Thank you. Ali reads the comment, and his face is filled with a light we have never seen before. The universe rewards consistency. What begins as a single drop of effort, repeated daily, becomes a trickle, then a stream, then a river, and finally, a tidal wave of transformation. His sacred hour, day by day, was no longer building sentences. It was building a new reality. The montage ends with Ali writing the final word on the final page of his manuscript. He writes the end. He leans back in his chair, exhausted and triumphant, and looks out the window at the rising sun. The captain. A destiny seized, fade in. We are no longer in the small apartment. We are in a large, bright university lecture hall. Years have passed. The room is filled with students, their faces young, eager, and full of the same mix of ambition and uncertainty that once defined Ali. At the front of the hall, standing at a lectern, is Ali. He is older, his face has more character, but the biggest change is internal. He is calm, centered, and radiates a quiet, powerful confidence. This is the man he was always meant to be. The story of the passenger is over. This is the story of the captain. Ali. His voice is clear, steady, and resonates with the authority of lived experience. And after the book was published, people would come up to me and ask for the secret. It's a funny thing. Everyone wants a secret. They want to hear about the lucky break, the magic formula, the one contact that changed everything. They want a map that shows a shortcut. He pauses, looking around the room, making eye contact with the students. Ali, I am here to tell you that there is no shortcut. But there is a secret. The secret is that it's not a secret at all. It is boring, it is difficult, and it is the most powerful force in the universe.
The secret is the alarm clock that rings in the cold, dark morning. The secret is the chair you force yourself into when every part of you wants to stay in bed. The secret is the blank page and the courage to write a single, terrible sentence on it. The secret is the promise you make to yourself and the discipline to keep it when no one is watching. The victory is not won in the spotlight of the awards ceremony. It is won in the silent, sacred hours before the dawn. He looks out at them, his expression softening with empathy. He sees himself in their faces. Ali, look, your life, right now, is a grand station of potential. Every single day, trains are arriving, opportunities, chances, risks. Do not make the mistake I made. Do not sit on the bench, waiting for the perfect gold-plated train that may never come. That is the passenger's mistake. Choose a destination. Any destination that sets your soul on fire. Find the train that is going in that direction. It doesn't have to be the fastest or the most comfortable. Walk onto that platform, step onto that train, look fear straight in the eye, and become the captain of your own journey. The students erupt in heartfelt applause. Ali nods, a small, genuine smile on his face. As the applause continues, his face fades from view, and the narrator delivers the final words. The story of Ali is over. He found his destination. But yours is being written right now, in this very moment, in the silence between your heartbeats. The world is waiting for your contribution, for your art, for your voice. Your train is at the station. Its doors are open. The passenger waits. The captain decides.